Hello. Today we are going to discuss about export processing zones. As your screen shows, there are 7 export processing zones in India. Before going to the detailed investigation of 7 export processing zones, it is time to understand what is export processing zone. What is EPZ? Export processing zones are the global phenomenon where the goods are produced mainly for exports. In our previous classes, we have discussed that every country is in need to increase the exports. That is the need. That is why the export processing zones are increased by the countries. So, export processing zones are the global phenomenon where goods are produced mainly for exports. EPZs, export processing zones. Export processing zones that are the zones where minimum bureaucratic setup has. EPZs are also called as foreign trade zones, and these zones are set up in the underdeveloped parts of the host country. The main aim is reducing the poverty and unemployment in stimulate areas of the economy. They are originated around major airports, seaports, national frontiers in the areas with many geographical advantages for trade. And the world's first EPZ was established in Shannon Island. The government of India set up the export processing zones to promote the exports. These provide a free trade environment for the production. The main aim in setting up EPZs is making India as one of the best exporter. And in the United States, the first EPZ was authorized in the year of 1934. In India, the first export processing zone was set up in 1965. It was followed by the Raj export processing zone, which came into the operation in 1973. Why EPZ? The developing countries have created export processing zones mainly for the purpose of promoting development of exports-oriented manufacturing industries. Foreign investment is to provide the main impetus. The first one is create jobs and raise standard of living. EPZ mainly it creates jobs in the host countries, and also it raises the standard of living of the host country. The transfer of new skills and expertise to the local human resources. Generally, developing countries will host these EPZs. Developed countries will start these EPZs in the host countries. These host countries will get a lot of new skills, and these home countries will develop the local resources. They'll train the people to make sure that the product is qualitative, and it also boosts the export sector. The fourth point is to earn foreign exchange. As we already discussed, no country is self sufficient in the world. It is importing something and exporting something. To meet the needs of importing, it need to earn foreign exchange. For the same, EPZs are useful. Create a backward and forward links to increase output and the raise standard of local enterprise that supplies goods and services to the zone investors. And the next one is to introduce new technology and develop backward regions of the country by locating EPZs in these areas and using them to attract industries. Like take an example of India. India is one of the world largest country, but the problem is in India many areas are they are not developed. So to develop those areas, Indian government is taking EPZs as a weapon to the development of the areas. If in this case, Indian government will give a lot of benefits to the EPZ owners who are going to locate their EPZs in underdeveloped areas. With this, whatever we have discussed as the merit of this EPZs is going to be happen. One is development, other one is improving standard of living, and the last one, it stimulates the sectors regarding as strategically important to the economy, like as electronics, information technology, research and development, tourism, infrastructure, and human resource development. This is why we need export processing zones. And the government set up five more export processing zones during the late 1980s. The first export processing zone was in 1963 65, sorry. Second processing export processing zone is 1973, and they are Kandala Free Trade Zone, KAFTZ at Kandala, Gujarat, Santa Cruz Export Processing Zone, SEPZ at Santa Cruz, Maharashtra, Cochin Export Processing Zone, CEPZ at Cochin, Kerala, Falta Export Processing Zone, FEPZ, Falta, West Bengal, and Madras Export Processing Zone, Madras, Tamil Nadu, Noida Export Processing Zone, Noida, Uttar Pradesh, and Vishakhapatnam Export Processing Zone, Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Export processing zones in India. In this map, you can see the export processing zones where they are located. The one is at New Delhi, at the capital of India. The second one is at Mumbai, near to the Mumbai as economic capital of India. And another one is at Gujarat, and the one is at West Bengal, Vishakhapatnam, Chennai. If you see this uh, if you see this export processing zones, you can easily identify that these export processing zones were located near the places where we have the international accessibility. Like in international trade, the most of the ways we will use only water transportation. See, you take the example of West Bengal, Visakhapatnam, Chennai, Cochin, Mumbai, Gujarat, Kandla export processing zone. These are located near to the ports, major ports. And India is now promoting the EPC programs much more than the initial phases of the evaluation. The basic objective of this EPZs in India to promote the export and foreign exchange earnings. The huge amount of public resources is being invested into the zones through the objective of EPZs were not clearly set out in India until the late 1980s. In actual practice, the predominant conditions in selecting EPZ units had been expected value addition component exports. And in 1989, there is a report of the Controller and Auditor General of India, CAG report, clarified that EPZs were meant for the earning foreign exchange, develop export-oriented industries, stimulate investment, and generate employment opportunities, beside creating an internationally competitive environment for the export production at low cost. The modus operandi, uh, the way of operations. Almost all EPZs around the globe will operate in more or less similar manner and offered lucrative packages to ensure or entice the investors. These are the important aspects of this package are the first one, financial incentives like tax holiday, duty free imports and exports. The second one is dedicated infrastructure, abundant and relatively cheap labor. However, in many countries, including India, the Jones authorities have floated a very tricky policy under which the maximum benefits are reaped by the investor. It is uh, the one of the tricky policy that the investors are looking for the benefit. They are not looking for the development. They are not looking for the creating employment, developing human resources. But it is also one of the uh, major policy, or we can say that it is one of the feature of APZ. In some countries, there are some countries have enforced that strict laws and banned the trade union activity in the zones to ensure the conflict-free industrial for the investors. For example, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines. In these countries, the trade unions are banned in these areas. In these areas, in Malaysia, also trade union activities are banned. The trade unions are not permitted in Sri Lanka to operate in EPZs, but whereas in India, trade unions are permitted in export processing zones. You can see one of the uh, biggest export processing zone in the world, that is Koiga Industrial Development Zone at Port Elizabeth, the biggest EPZ with 11,000 hectares. And you can see the image of the same export processing zone in the screen. A role of international organizations in development of EPZs. International institutions like World Bank, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and United Nations Conference on Trade Development have played an important part in creating as well as legitimating the concept of export processing zones. As per a report of International Confederation of Trade-Free Unions, EPZs were seen by the international financial institutions as one of the essential ingredient of opening up of the third world economies. These zones have been often created in response to plans drawn the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank. The UN system has also played an important role in development of EPZs, export processing zones. The main reasons behind the setting up the EPZs in India, ensuring the better infrastructure facilities in industrial units that were set up in EPZs, and second one is introducing the privilege of tax holiday, and third one is establishing 100% export oriented system. These EPZs are entirely devoid of kind of duties, levies, taxes. These units and EPZs follows the automatic route set up by the government of India, which offers 100% is direct investment in the zone. You can see this Kandala export processing zone picture in the screen and procedure of setting of UPZ in India. It includes a wide spectrum of policies and formalities that every export processing zone have to undergo while setting up the industrial unit. The first one is it ensures a number of benefits to the industrial units were established in that zone. The next one is the EPZs in India can be set up by the government in either public or private sector or even under the joint venture of the both. Significant features of EPZs in India. These are not liable to licensed. This is the first significant feature. Whatever the activities, whatever the productions they are doing, they are completely of exempted from the licensing formalities. And second one is these units set up in the EPZs can select their destinies locations following certain parameters as prescribed by the state governments. The EPZs follow the active export and import policy. The units in export EPZs are totally custom banded, and the proposals for the starting up units in EPZs are in India are entitled to follow the automatic route for the approval enforced by the state governments. Chennai Export Processing Zone. You can see the picture of Chennai Export Processing Zone in the screen. And advantages of EPZs in India. Uh, the first advantage is nothing but they have given major boost to the economical growth and industrialization of country. And the quotas and tariffs were eliminated. The export processing zones in India are specialized areas where the quotas and tariffs are completely eliminated. And second one is the EPZ units in India involves the import of raw material and export of finished goods. And 100% is a foreign direct investment is allowed for all the manufacturing activities. There are income tax holidays, there are exemption from VAT, import duties, and also various other taxes. So it is 100% is foreign direct investment allowed. At the same time, lot of tax privileges are given to the EPZs in India. Exemption from the duties and all the goods that are imported for the purpose of project development and procedural efficiency for the fast dispute resolutions, clearance, approvals, and custom procedures. And this is one of the MPH, Mumbai Export Processing Zone Company, that is Cognizant. They helps in house clearance facilities from the customs, independent supply of trained manpower, and also convenient access railway station to the airport. EPZs are underutilized. It's a major problem of the export processing zones in India. EPZs are underutilized. Here you have a diagram that how the EPZs were underutilized. So from 1966 to till now, there is a decrease in the export and employment generation by the EPZs. And these are the key countries that which have the maximum number of export processing zones. Again, you can see in this, United States is at the top list with 213 export processing zones, and Mexico is the second country with 107 export processing zones, and India is one of the most happening country, but it has only 7 export processing zones. Thank you.